So part one, planning. Why plan? Okay, well, you probably heard this a million times. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Okay? That's ultimately how it works. And I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios as to why planning will benefit your organization. And I also want, even if you're saying, Darren, yes, I do plan, you have to think about how extensive the planning is. Right? Like I said, with simple systems, requires simple planning. With complex systems, extensive planning. So this is why you should plan. Okay. The first one is that it's going to help you to avoid loss of time, money, training, and development. The problem, especially if you're doing Monday.com yourself, is that you may not know 100% the functionalities of Monday.com, which means you're not using the tool to its full potential. And obviously, because you're doing that, what could happen is that you feel that the system doesn't suit your needs, when you could actually be holding the solution in your hands. It just hasn't been configured properly. Okay. The other thing is that if you build the system, okay, and I've found this many times, is that companies quickly build something up, and then in the long run, they eventually start saying, oh, we actually need this feature. And then when you're trying to do it and you realize that the system that you've built can't do it, or Monday.com is unable to actually do that, all of the time you spent learning about the system, developing, testing it, getting your team to use it, and creating all the material to train them how to use it, it's all gone. And that's the same with any low-code, no-code system, not just Monday. Many companies start building their solutions on a system, realize it doesn't work, and have to move over. And you just have to think about the amount of time that was lost. But if you actually sat down and thought about as much as you need, I'm saying you can't think of everything, but if you spend more time focusing on the system functionalities, the permissions, the fields of data, the workflow, it will really help you to ensure that the system you're building is well thought out and would most certainly be able to be used by the company in the long run. Okay. And that's where I speak about you get a clear understanding of what you need to develop. So the thing is that even before you do with Monday.com, you really need to plan the system out. And you need to say, okay, well, I know that the technology needs to do X, Y, and Z. And what's really helpful here is that, especially when you're thinking about using any low-code, no-code system, you know what questions that you kind of need to ask. And you can go and ask the sales agent or the consultant that's obviously saying you should go with the system. You should be able, you can ask them these questions and say, will it do this? Will it do this? Will it do this? And it's about really understanding what are obviously the critical features that you need to have. So for instance, you've got things called walkaway features, where if the system cannot do this, we walk away from it. It means we cannot utilize it. Obviously, the more walkaway features you have, the more difficult it would be to find the perfect solution for you. And I mean, that's where low-code, no-code is really cool, is that you can really customize it for you. But you need to understand all of your walkaway features, and if you see the low-code, no-code does not have the ability to be able to perform that walkaway function, you then need to keep your eyes out for different technology. Okay. The other thing with planning, and this is going to be talking about point 4, which is onboarding, is that it will also help you communicate the value to future users as well as management. The thing is that with regards to building a low-code, no-code system, with simple workflows, you don't really need a lot of development. Okay, it really is easy to get here. But when you're starting to think about how you can get this low-code, no-code system to integrate within your entire business, it becomes complicated. And then you might, and really there's only 5 options you can really kind of go over here. The first one is that you do it yourself. The second one is you work with a freelancer. The third one is you work with a Monday.com consulting company like FinLink. The fourth one is that you get extensive training for an individual in your company to make it for you. Or the fifth one is that you actually hire someone that is a Monday.com expert, which obviously is a very expensive option. And you kind of need to really define the value of Monday.com. And also in this planning stage, you can really identify the cost of the pain that your system that you're wanting to build is going to solve for you. So that when you need to go to the owner or the CFO or your finance department and say, I want to bring Monday.com in because it's going to do this, and this is the return of investment we're going to get. And technology can be quite expensive, especially when it comes down to licensing. I mean, Monday.com on the pro user license, you roughly have about $24. And then, if I'm not mistaken, with enterprise, it's roughly about over $50, including the CRM functionality, or that could actually even just be for the base Monday.com core product. So, I mean, if you've got, let's say, 20 users in the company at $50 a pop, you're looking at around $1,000 a month, okay? Over 12 months, I mean, that's 12K, that's roughly about $12,000. That's a fair bit of money. And you need to be able to communicate the why finance should actually fund that cost to your company. Okay, it's extremely important that you understand that, and planning will help you be able to have that argument and communicate it. The other thing I also want to mention is that in those planning sessions, it's important to have people involved that are going to be using your system, because they're going to tell you their pain points, and what can happen is that you can then explain the value that the system is going to give to them. And I'll cover that more in part 4, but you really want to communicate the value to them, because ultimately they decide if they're going to use the system or not, really. So yeah, you want to do that. And the last reason that I'm going to maybe explain is the technology rollout. You need to be able to plan the rollout of how you want to get this technology into your company. And because what you really want is you want to have really good user adoption. And if you haven't planned not just the system, I'm talking about rolling out Monday.com into the organization as a whole. Now, if you're only getting it for your department, okay, that's good for you. But if you see this as a tool to centralize your systems and IT infrastructure and remove the data silos, you definitely have to think about your rollout plan here. Because the problem is that if you don't think about this and you do this poorly, you're going to have poor user adoption, and any money that you spend on the system is going, again, to our first point, it's going to be a waste of time, money, training, and development. And listen, there are so many other reasons as to why planning is important. And one of the things that I've actually done is that I have actually created a webinar with my partner Tristan Long in the UK, and we have explained how to design a bespoke system architecture in 7 steps, and we talk a lot about how to plan for your system. So it's actually a webinar. If you want, I will have a link that allows you to come and join that webinar, and if the webinar is already done, I will also provide you with a recording of that webinar. So really, that's all I have to say right now about the planning. There is a lot more to discuss about it, but yeah, we're going to move on into the next video, which is part 2, development.